Chapter 1, The Glow in His Bones. The checkpoint at Helios Prime Station had seen its share of oddities: smugglers with plasma grenades in their stomachs, nobles who thought bribes worked better than paperwork, even one unfortunate trader who carried an entire hive of miniature wasps in his beard. But never this. The scanner wailed, lights flared crimson, and the machine spat out data as though in pain. On its display, a skeletal silhouette pulsed bright as a newborn star. The bones glowed with residual heat signatures that should not exist outside theoretical physics. Subject anomaly detected, the scanner's voice droned, tinny and panicked. Warning, survival of singularity collapse recorded. Statistically impossible. Immediate containment required. Aliens froze mid-step. Conversations died. The entire customs hall fell into stunned silence. And in the middle of it stood a man. Captain Marcus Hale, lead of the Terran Expeditionary Corps, shifted his duffel bag higher on his shoulder and glanced at the flashing alarms. His only visible reaction was an irritated sigh. In his other hand, he held a steaming cup of coffee, the kind of bitter sludge sold for triple price at stations like this. "Well," he said, almost cheerfully, "I knew airport security was rough. Didn't think the intergalactic version would yell at my skeleton." The insectoid officer at the checkpoint clicked its mandibles in agitation. "Explain, human." Marcus took a slow sip. "About what?" "Your bones," the officer snapped, pointing with a trembling limb at the glowing projection. "They radiate. No living creature survives singularity contact. No creature returns." Marcus tilted his head, as though mildly puzzled. "Guess I'm not no creature, then." Gasps rippled through the aliens queued behind him. A gelatinous merchant sloshed backward. An amphibian mother clutched her child's frills tight. Whispers rose, spreading like wildfire, * black hole. Survivor. Human, *. The officer barked orders. Guards raised weapons, the hum of charged plasma filling the air. Marcus kept his smile. "Really?" he asked, tone polite, almost apologetic. "You're going to point those at me? That seems optimistic." One guard's hand trembled on the trigger. From the far side of the hall, a robed elder shuffled forward, scales glinting in station light. His eyes were cloudy but sharp with something older than fear. "Impossible," the elder rasped. "The singularity consumes all. To return is blasphemy." Marcus gave a little shrug. "Blasphemy's kind of a family tradition where I'm from." A nervous laugh slipped out from somewhere in the crowd. Someone hissed it quiet. The scanner chimed again, voice glitching as if uncertain of its own results. Subject energy profile, anomalous. Residual event horizon exposure. Recommendation, termination. Marcus leaned close to the insectoid officer, lowering his voice just enough to make it intimate, conspiratorial. "Do you ever notice how machines love to recommend the easy option? Terminate, erase, delete. Never invite him for dinner or offer a nice seat by the window. Shame, really." The officer flinched back. Two guards stepped forward, weapons trained. Marcus's bones flared again, golden light threading beneath skin, pulsing like heartbeats amplified by a star. The air thickened, gravity tugging faintly toward him. Loose papers skittered along the floor. "Stand down," barked a general voice, crisp and commanding. The crowd parted for a tall Saurian officer in crimson armor. His scaled face was unreadable as he studied Marcus. "Human, identify yourself." Marcus set his coffee on the scanner console as if settling into a casual conversation. "Captain Marcus Hale. Terran Expeditionary Corps. Retired, technically. Though apparently my skeleton didn't get the memo. You claim survival of singularity immersion. I don't claim anything, Marcus said. Your machine's the one screaming bloody physics violation. I was just hoping to catch a connecting shuttle. The Saurian's eyes narrowed. How did you return? Marcus's grin sharpened just enough to unsettle. Trade secret. Though I suppose if I told you, you'd sleep worse at night. Murmurs surged. A scientist in the corner began recording feverishly, muttering equations. The amphibs whispered prayers. The insectoid officer tapped emergency alerts with frantic limbs. Marcus spread his hands in mock surrender. Look, I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want to get through customs like everyone else. Fill out a form, pat me down, maybe ask if I'm carrying fruit. The Saurian's voice was like drawn steel. You are not leaving this station. Marcus nodded, calm. Fair enough. But before you try locking me in a box, you might want to ask yourself one question. He leaned forward, smile as friendly as a bartender offering a free drink. If I walked out of a black hole, what exactly do you think a holding cell will do? The silence after that was heavier than the gravity haze radiating from his bones. The general's tail twitched once, betraying unease. Guards exchanged uneasy glances. No one fired. Marcus picked up his coffee again, blew across the surface, and took another sip. Didn't think so. He turned toward the waiting hall, as if ready to stroll out, but weapons rose again instantly. He sighed, patient as a teacher with slow students. All right, he said lightly, how about we do this the civilized way? You sit me down, ask your questions, I give you charming, polite answers that make half of you laugh and half of you sweat. Everyone walks away intact. Or, he gestured vaguely at the humming weapons. We make a mess, and the station janitors hate you forever. Your call. The Saurian general's jaw flexed. At length, he lowered his claw. Interrogation chamber. Now. Marcus offered a small bow, all manners. Lead the way, Commander. As they escorted him out, whispers chased in his wake, survived his singularity, bones of fire, human impossible. Marcus caught a fragment, smiled faintly to himself, and murmured just loud enough for the nearest guard to hear. Impossible's kind of our specialty. Chapter 2, Interrogation Room Etiquette. The chamber was small, square, and painfully sterile. White panels hummed faintly, the kind of lighting designed to make anyone feel exposed. A single table sat in the middle, bolted to the floor. Marcus Hale dropped into the lawn chair, slouched comfortably, and set his coffee on the table as if it belonged there. The escorting guards lingered at the door, uncertain whether leaving him alone was smart or suicidal. The Saurian general gestured. Stay. One insectoid twitched its antennae nervously. General, the energy signature is destabilizing. This room is not. Stay, the general repeated, tone final. The guards obeyed. Across the table, the general sat with military precision. Two others joined, a scholar in silver robes, eyes luminous with data implants, and a bureaucrat whose mandibles clicked in barely hidden disdain. Marcus glanced between them. Ah, the welcoming committee. Let me guess, muscle, brains, paperwork. The bureaucrat bristled. You stand accused of existing? Marcus offered helpfully. Because that's all I've done today, unless drinking coffee is now a felony. The general leaned forward. You survived a black hole. That alone is impossible. Marcus gave him an amiable smile. Improbable, sure. But impossible? I'm sitting right here. Someone should update your textbooks. The scholar tapped her data slate. Energy traces in his bones match readings from collapsed singularities. Radiation signatures are authentic. This cannot be fabrication. The bureaucrat hissed. Then he is a weapon. Humans built him to infiltrate. Marcus spread his hands, palms up, harmless. If I were a weapon, wouldn't I be going off by now? You know, kaboom, dramatic explosion, everyone dies? Instead, I'm sitting politely and answering questions. Answering, the general said, but not truthfully. Marcus sipped his coffee. Truth's a slippery thing. Ask 10 witnesses, you'll get 12 versions. But sure, fire away. The scholar leaned in. How did you survive? Marcus let the question hang in the air, as though considering how much he felt like sharing. Finally, he said lightly, bad luck, mostly. Wrong place, wrong time. Or right place, depending on how you look at it. Fell in, didn't stay dead, climbed back out. You know how it goes. No one in the room breathed. The bureaucrat slammed a claw against the table. You mock us. Marcus's grin widened just a fraction. If I mocked you, you'd know. This is charm. The general studied him carefully. Humans are reckless. History proves it. But this, his eyes narrowed. This suggests calculation. Marcus met his gaze evenly, all trace of levity gone for one heartbeat. Maybe we just play the long game better than you think. The shift in tone was subtle but electric. The bureaucrat recoiled. The scholar's implants flickered as though recording a historic statement. Marcus leaned back again, smile restored. Relax. I'm not here to conquer your galaxy. I just want to get through customs, maybe grab a sandwich before my next flight. The scholar's voice was hushed. Your body is unstable. Residual gravity waves fluctuate in your marrow. If agitated, you could collapse this chamber. Marcus tapped the table once, thoughtfully. Papers on the bureaucrat's side skittered an inch closer, tugged by a faint pull. He stopped before it grew obvious, then lifted his coffee again. See? All under control, he said pleasantly. The general did not look convinced. If you are what you appear, you are dangerous to every world in this sector. Marcus gave a little shrug. Dangerous is relative. I once had a neighbor who kept 3 chihuahuas. Those things were terrifying. The bureaucrat's mandibles clicked furiously. This is not a game. Civilizations have fallen for less than what you represent. Marcus's tone stayed mild. Funny thing about civilizations. They're always convinced they're stable until the floor caves in. Humans? We learned early that the floor is lava. The scholar blinked. The floor is lava? Marcus grinned. Metaphor. Children's game. Pretend the ground will kill you, so you learn to jump higher. The general muttered something low in his own language, a phrase heavy with unease. Marcus leaned forward, voice softer now, intimate. Here's what you need to understand. I didn't come here to pick a fight. But you keep poking me like I'm a grenade, and eventually, he snapped his fingers. A faint shimmer rippled across his knuckles, gravity bending for a second before stabilizing. Something goes off. The guards tensed. The general held up a clawed hand, stilling them. His eyes stayed locked on Marcus. What do humans want? Marcus's smile flickered, half amusement, half something sharper. Depends on the day. Today? I want peace and quiet. Tomorrow? Maybe pizza. Long term? Well, he tapped his glowing wrist bones lightly against the table. You'll figure that out soon enough. The scholar whispered, he speaks as though more humans have done this. As though he is not unique. The bureaucrat froze. Impossible. Marcus raised his brows innocently. Oh, did I forget to say? I was the unlucky one who got caught in your scanner. Doesn't mean I'm the only one who's been testing boundaries. The room went deathly still. The general leaned back slowly, expression unreadable. "Your bait." Marcus's eyes sparkled with humor that didn't reach the steel underneath. "Such an ugly word. I prefer conversation starter." The bureaucrat lurched to his feet. "This is a threat. Detain him, dissect him, destroy him before." The table creaked. Every object on it shifted subtly toward Marcus as gravity warped for a heartbeat. He hadn't moved, hadn't raised his voice. But when he finally spoke, it was quiet, almost gentle. "You really don't want to finish that sentence." The bureaucrat sat down without another word. Marcus relaxed again, tapping the rim of his coffee. "See? We're all friends here. Just chatting. No explosions, no screaming, no interstellar incidents, yet." The general's jaw worked. He studied Marcus with something between wariness and reluctant respect. "You will remain under observation until the council convenes." Marcus gave him a courteous nod. "Happy to cooperate. Just make sure someone feeds the guards outside. Hungry soldiers make poor babysitters." The guards exchanged uneasy glances. As they escorted him out, the scholar murmured to the general, "If he speaks true, the humans are not reckless. They are deliberate." Marcus heard it, of course. He always did. He didn't turn around, didn't react. He just smiled faintly and muttered under his breath. Finally, someone's catching on. Chapter 3, The Rumor That Broke the Galaxy. News didn't just travel across Helios Prime Station, it sprinted. By the time Marcus Hale's interview ended, half the station knew about the human with glowing bones. Within an hour, the story was already racing through subspace relays. By morning, entire sectors would be whispering, "A man who walked out of a black hole, alive." To Marcus, it felt like high school gossip. Except instead of who kissed who behind the bleachers, it was who might destabilize galactic physics with a smile. He sat cross-legged in his holding cell, back against the wall, coffee finally gone. The guards outside kept whispering in languages they thought he couldn't understand. He understood enough: dangerous, cursed, impossible, maybe divine. The door hissed. A new visitor stepped in, not a soldier, not a bureaucrat. A young amphibian officer, scales glistening pale blue, clutching a data slate far too tightly. His voice shook. "They sent me to observe you." Marcus tilted his head. "Observe, interrogate, or make sure I don't eat anyone? Because I've had lunch." "You're safe." The officer blinked rapidly, throat sac inflating and deflating with nerves. "Is it true? You survived a singularity?" Marcus leaned forward, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "Between you and me? Yes. And no. Depends on how you define survive." The officer's eyes widened. "That doesn't make sense." Marcus grinned. "Neither does getting a bill for extra baggage weight when your luggage is 3 socks and a toothbrush. But it still happens." The officer blinked again, confused but captivated. What was it like?" Marcus's smile faded for the first time. His tone softened. "Dark. Quiet. Like being the only thought left in the universe. And then, louder than anything you can imagine. It changes you." The officer shuddered. He believed every word. Marcus leaned back, tone light again. "But hey, it builds character. Or at least glowing bones. Can't complain about a good party trick." The officer hurried out, clearly disturbed. Marcus knew the kid would repeat every word to his superiors. He wanted that. Hours passed. Beyond the station walls, fleets were already shifting. The Vanar sent reconnaissance drones. The Crotham dispatched priests to declare Marcus a walking omen. The Zo collective debated annihilating Earth before the contagion spread. Inside the council chamber, representatives shouted over each other. The bureaucrat who had tried to condemn Marcus earlier slammed his claws against the table. He is bait. A weapon disguised as humor. Humans spread like infection. Give them a century, they will devour the stars. The scholar countered calmly, though her implants flickered with unease. Or he is singular, an anomaly. To destroy him without study would waste the greatest discovery in recorded history. The general said nothing. His gaze remained distant, calculating. Marcus was summoned again. This time the chamber was crowded. Dozens of species filled the seats, all craning to watch the human who had survived the impossible. He strolled in, hands tucked in pockets, posture casual as if he were arriving late to a dinner party. "Wow," he said brightly, "you all shouldn't have a welcoming committee this big? I feel important." No one laughed. The council head, a towering crystalline entity, spoke in a voice like chimes struck against iron. "Human, you are an abomination against the laws of physics. Explain yourself." Marcus gave a theatrical sigh. "You know, I keep getting accused of things today. First security thought I was smuggling, now I'm accused of rewriting the universe. Next thing, someone's going to blame me for bad weather." The crystalline being's light pulsed angrily. "Answer." Marcus folded his arms on the table, leaning in as if confiding a secret. "All right. Here's the truth. Humans don't like boxes. Cages, limits, ceilings, we poke at them until something breaks. Sometimes we fall in. Sometimes we crawl out. Sometimes we bring a little piece of the impossible back with us." A nervous ripple passed through the chamber. The bureaucrat hissed, "He admits it. They are experimenting with singularities." Marcus's grin turned sharp. "Experimenting? Oh, friend, we're way past experimenting." The scholar whispered, horrified, "There are more." Marcus's eyes twinkled. "Didn't say that. Didn't deny it either." The chamber erupted. Shouts, threats, pleas. Half the room wanted him destroyed immediately. The other half wanted him dissected and studied. A small minority whispered prayers as though he were divine. Through it all, Marcus sat calmly, tapping one finger on the table. Each tap made pens, datapads, even armor buckles shift faintly toward him. Gravity bent to his rhythm. Few noticed at first. Then more did. Silence slowly fell as they realized the human wasn't merely glowing. He was pulling. Marcus finally spoke, voice low, carrying easily in the stun chamber. "You're asking the wrong questions. Don't ask how I survived. Ask why I was there in the first place." The crystalline head leaned forward, cold light flickering. "Then tell us." Marcus smiled, polite as ever. "Let's just say humans like to prepare. We test boundaries so that when the galaxy finally notices us, we're already 10 steps ahead." The bureaucrat shot to his feet. "This is a declaration of war." Marcus shook his head. "Not war. Insurance." He raised one glowing hand, flexing the bones beneath the skin until they shone like molten steel. "Because if a human can walk out of a black hole, what do you think happens when 1,000 of us decide to walk into your backyard?" The silence was absolute. The general's tail flicked once. His voice was quiet, but every word landed like a blade. "You came here on purpose. To be seen." Marcus's grin returned, bright and easy. "Guilty. I always wanted to be famous." Gasps echoed through the chamber. The scholar's implants flickered with frantic data exchange. The bureaucrat trembled with fury. The crystalline head's light pulsed dangerously. Marcus lifted his coffee cup, someone had finally refilled it, and raised it in a casual toast. To new neighbors. May we all get along, or at least make the fireworks interesting. Outside the chamber, chaos brewed. Fleets mobilized faster now, alliances strained, and for the first time in centuries, galactic powers looked at Earth not as a curiosity but as a looming storm. Marcus walked calmly back to his cell, escorted by twice as many guards as before. He looked utterly unconcerned. One young soldier finally asked, voice trembling, Are all humans like you? Marcus gave him a smile both reassuring and chilling. Oh no! Most are far worse. Chapter 4, The Long Game. The council chamber emptied into war rooms. Fleets scrambled across sectors. Every empire whispered the same word with unease, human. Back in his cell, Marcus stretched out on the cot like he was in a cheap motel. He hummed tunelessly, hands behind his head, glowing bones faintly illuminating the wall. Guards rotated in shifts, none lasting more than an hour. Fear wore them down faster than exhaustion. At last, the Saurian general entered. His armor was scuffed, tail dragging with tension. He dismissed the guards and shut the door, sealing them alone. Marcus sat up, polite as ever. General. Always a pleasure. Though, next time, maybe skip the bright lights and paperwork. Dinner and a drink would do. The general's eyes burned. Enough games. You've thrown this station into panic. Entire systems mobilize. Tell me the truth. What are the humans planning? Marcus studied him for a long moment, expression unreadable. Then he leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You want the truth? You won't like it. Speak. Marcus's grin returned, but it was sharp now, edged with something colder. You're looking at it. This was the plan. The general stiffened. Marcus gestured loosely around the cell. Me? Here. You, panicking. The galaxy, spiraling. That scanner you trust so much? We tampered with it. Deliberately. Ensured it would scream when I walked through. A little nudge, a little trick. And now? You can't stop whispering my name. The general's jaw tightened. A psychological strike. Marcus chuckled. Call it theater. Humans love a good performance. We don't need to conquer you the old-fashioned way. We just make you afraid of what we might be capable of. That fear does the heavy lifting. The general's claws dug into the table. So you never survived a singularity. Marcus raised one glowing hand, bones pulsing with heat. Oh, I survived. That part's real. But survival wasn't the goal, it was the advertisement. The message. He leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper. You can't intimidate a species that crawled into the abyss on purpose. The general flinched despite himself. Marcus smiled warmly, as though discussing weather. You see, General, while you argue over treaties and borders, humanity has been preparing for the worst-case scenario. We've practiced. Tested. Pushed ourselves into places no sane being would go. Black holes, neutron storms, chemical hellscapes. Because if we can survive those, what chance do you really think you have? The silence between them vibrated like a drawn bowstring. At last, the general said quietly, You are monsters. Marcus shook his head. No. We're survivors. There's a difference. Monsters destroy for fun. Survivors smile while setting the trap, because we know the alternative is extinction. The general stared at him, then whispered, You've doomed us all. The galaxy will never rest until humanity is crushed. Marcus leaned back, utterly calm. Maybe. But you'll waste so much energy chasing shadows that by the time you reach Earth, we'll be waiting with 1,000 more surprises. Either way, we win. The general rose abruptly and left without another word. Moments later, alarms blared across the station. Marcus was on his feet instantly, straightening his jacket as though preparing for a casual stroll. Outside, panicked footsteps clattered. Announcements echoed, fleets approaching, weapons charging, alliances fracturing. 2 guards burst in, weapons raised, faces pale. One shouted, "Stay where you are." Marcus raised his hands. "Of course. Wouldn't dream of leaving." Then his bones glowed white-hot, pulling the weapons out of their hands as gravity warped. They clattered harmlessly against the wall. Marcus walked past the stunned soldiers, smiling kindly. "Don't worry. You'll live to tell your grandkids you once pointed a gun at me. That'll impress them more than medals." The corridor outside was chaos. Sirens, smoke, officers shouting contradictory orders. Marcus strolled through the storm, untouched. Where he passed, objects shifted subtly toward him, pulled by invisible tides. The scholar intercepted him, eyes wide, data implants flickering furiously. "Please, tell me this isn't true. Tell me you're not part of a plan." Marcus paused, genuinely thoughtful. "You know, I wish I could. Would make life simpler. But humans? We don't do simple." Her voice broke. "What do you want from us?" Marcus gave her a sad smile. "Nothing. Just your fear. And maybe your respect. Everything else? You'll hand over willingly, once you realize how fragile you are." He walked on, leaving her trembling. By the time Marcus reached the docking bay, alien fleets were already firing outside the station. Energy blasts lit the void, dazzling arcs of destruction. Entire alliances were fracturing before his eyes. Marcus stopped at the viewport, admiring the chaos like a man watching fireworks on the 4th of July. "Beautiful," he murmured. "Expensive, but beautiful." A comms device in his jacket buzzed. He lifted it casually. A voice crackled through, cool and efficient. "Captain Hale, report." Marcus smirked. "Phase 1 complete. They've taken the bait. Fear levels are off the charts. They're fighting each other already." "Good. Proceed to extraction. Phase 2 will begin once they have burned themselves out." Marcus ended the call and slid the device back into his pocket. Behind him, a squad of soldiers charged into the bay, weapons trained. He turned slowly, raising his hands again, expression pleasant. "Gentlemen," he said with mock apology, "I'd love to stay for more polite conversation, but I've got a shuttle to catch." His bones flared brilliant gold, gravity waves rippling outward. Soldiers slammed into walls, weapons wrenched from their grips. Marcus strolled through them as if walking through a revolving door. Minutes later, his shuttle detached from the station. As engines roared to life, Marcus looked back one last time. Helios Prime glowed against the dark, fleets clashing in a storm of fire and light. He raised his coffee cup in a final toast. To humanity, the friendliest monsters in the galaxy. The shuttle vanished into the void, leaving chaos behind.